All right, so get ready because today we are diving deep into the Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. This book, wow, it's just jam-packed with Toltec wisdom, and we're going to try to unpack it. We're going to unpack its key insights and hopefully see if they apply to your life. You ready?
Absolutely. It's pretty fascinating how the book blends spirituality and personal growth and practical advice. It does all this in one go, which is pretty cool. It's not really tied to any specific religion, but it still manages to honor all spiritual
Yeah,
masters.
it's like this universal guide to happiness and love, but it's not tied to any one specific dogma. What was it about the Four Agreements? I mean, they sound so simple, right? What makes them so powerful, you think?
Well, I think the power lies in their ability to break us free from what Ruiz calls domestication. And domestication is this process where we unknowingly adopt society's beliefs and limitations, and we do this from childhood, and this ends up shaping our reality.
So you're saying that these beliefs that we pick up along the way are kind of like a blueprint for our lives, and we don't even realize we're following it.
Exactly. Think about it. What messages did you receive growing up about success? What about relationships? Or even what it means to be a good person? Those messages become very ingrained in us, and they shape our choices and experiences as we grow.
Wow. Yeah. When you put it like that, it really makes you realize how much of our lives are influenced by things that we've just kind of accepted as truth. And we never question them. It's like we're living on autopilot, just following a script. Somebody else wrote it for us.
And this domestication leads to what Ruiz calls the dream of the planet.
The dream of the planet. I've got to admit, it sounds a little ominous.
Think of it this way. Look at the news, look at social media, heck, even just look at your everyday conversations. How much of it is fueled by fear or judgment, negativity? This negativity isn't just random. It's this collective nightmare that we're all participating in.
I mean, that puts a whole new spin on things. So it's not just about our individual struggles. It's about this larger collective dream that's filled with this negativity.
Exactly. But the good news is, Ruiz offers a way out. And it's called the Four Agreements. They're like tools to help us dismantle that negative dream and build something better. And that something better is based on personal freedom and joy.
Okay. I'm intrigued. So let's break down these agreements, starting with the first one. Be impeccable with your word. I know words have power, but I'm kind of curious, what does Ruiz actually mean by impeccable in this context? It seems like a pretty high bar to set.
You're right, it is a high bar. But it's not about being perfect. It's more about being mindful and intentional with what we say. Impeccability in this context means speaking truthfully, kindly, and with a purpose. And it really all starts with how we talk to ourselves.
Okay, I see. So it's not just about, avoiding gossip or harmful words that we say to other people, but it's also about the way we talk to ourselves. It's about recognizing that our words have power and we need to use them responsibly.
Every word we utter is like a seed we plant. Negative self-talk can grow into a garden of insecurities and limitations. It's really about choosing words that nourish us and help us grow.
That makes a lot of sense. I used to be my own worst critic, constantly putting myself down. I never really stopped to think about how those words were impacting me. It's like I was basically feeding the negativity within myself.
It's something we all do, but becoming aware of it is the first step towards change. Instead of, berating ourselves, we can choose words of encouragement and support.
It's like we're retraining our inner voice to be more compassionate and understanding. That's pretty powerful. Okay, so on to agreement number 2. Don't take anything personally. I remember when I read this in the book, I was thinking, wait a minute, even if someone does something hurtful, I'm not supposed to take it personally. How is that even possible?
It is a radical concept,
Right.
but it's about understanding that other people's actions and words are ultimately a reflection of their own internal world. It's not a judgment on you.
So if someone cuts me off in traffic, it's not about me being a bad driver. It's about their own, stress or frustration or whatever else is going on with them at that moment.
Exactly. When we take things personally, we're basically letting their stuff become our stuff. We get caught up in their drama, and it just weighs us down.
Okay, yeah. I'm starting to see how this ties into the idea of the dream of the planet. If everyone is taking everything personally, it creates this massive web of negativity, right?
Right.
But if we can learn to detach from that, then we can actually break the cycle.
That's a great insight. We have a choice in how we react to the world around us. We can choose to get caught up in the drama, or we can choose to rise above it.
So agreement 2 is all about taking our power back, refusing to let other people's negativity kind of dictate our emotional state. All right, let's move on to agreement number 3. Don't make assumptions. Now, this one seems pretty straightforward, but I have a feeling there's a little more to it than meets the eye.
Absolutely. Assumptions are often based on our own insecurities and past experiences. This leads to misinterpretations and unnecessary conflicts. Instead of guessing, Ruiz encourages us to ask questions. It's the key to clear communication and a deeper understanding.
Okay, so it's not about suppressing our curiosity or pretending that we don't have questions. It's about being, brave enough to actually ask for clarification, to seek understanding, instead of just assuming that we already know.
And this all ties back to impeccability. When we're clear about our needs and our expectations, we can communicate them directly and respectfully without, dropping hints or hoping our partner will just get it.
Yeah, I've definitely been guilty of that in the past, dropping hints instead of just saying what I mean. But I'm realizing that just creates more confusion than anything else. It's much more empowering to just be upfront and honest.
Exactly. Take ownership of our communication. Create a space for open and honest dialogue.
All right, on to the fourth agreement. Always do your best. Now, this one seems pretty self-explanatory, but I have a feeling Ruiz has a specific perspective on what best actually means.
He does. Ruiz clarifies that best is not about perfection or pushing ourselves to the limit. It's more about aligning our effort with our well-being. It's about doing what we can with the energy and resources we have available in each moment.
So it's not about burning ourselves out or striving for some unattainable ideal. It's more about just showing up authentically and putting our heart into whatever we're doing.
Exactly. In the book, he gives this great example about this man who wanted to meditate for 8 hours straight, and he was thinking that this would make him more enlightened.
Oh, I remember that one. The master told him that spending 8 hours meditating wouldn't necessarily be better than 2 hours of really focused, quality meditation. It's a reminder to focus on quality over quantity.
And be present and intentional in our actions, rather than just, going through the motions.
That's a great point. It's about being kind to ourselves, recognizing that our best will fluctuate from day to day. Some days our best might be simply getting out of bed and taking a shower. Other days it might be tackling a challenging project with, enthusiasm. It's all about honoring where we are in each moment.
Exactly. It's about finding joy in the process. When we focus on doing our best, whatever that looks like in that moment, it becomes a celebration of life rather than a burden.
All right, I am loving these agreements so far. They're so simple, but yet so profound. Now, I'm kind of curious about this whole concept of the Toltec path to freedom. What exactly does that entail, and how does it connect to the four agreements?
It's all about breaking free from that domestication that we talked about earlier. Ruiz describes this process as a battle against what he calls the parasite. And the parasite is the judge, the victim, and our own belief systems. These are the forces that keep us trapped in the dream of the planet, this cycle of negativity and suffering.
Hold on, the parasite? That sounds pretty intense. Can you elaborate on that a little bit? What exactly are the judge and the victim, and how do they kind of contribute to our suffering?
Well, imagine the judge. It's that inner voice that constantly criticizes and condemns us, telling us we're not good enough, smart enough, worthy enough. And then the victim internalizes that judgment, leading to feelings of shame, guilt, and inadequacy.
Okay, yeah, I think we all know that inner critic, right? The one that's always ready to point out our flaws and magnify our insecurities. It's like having a negative Nancy living rent-free in our heads.
And the more we listen to that voice, the more power we give it. It's like feeding the parasite, allowing it to grow stronger, keeping us trapped in that cycle of self-doubt and negativity.
Wow, that's a powerful image. So the Toltec path to freedom is about fighting back against this parasite, about reclaiming our power and breaking free from those limiting beliefs and self-judgments.
Exactly. We have a choice in how we respond to those inner voices. We can choose to believe them and let them control us, or we can choose to challenge them and reclaim our power.
So the four agreements are our weapons in this battle. They're the tools that we use to dismantle the parasite and create a new dream, one that's based on personal freedom and joy.
Precisely. Each agreement chips away at the parasite's power. Impeccability with our word helps us starve the parasite of negativity. Not taking things personally prevents us from absorbing the parasite's poison. Not making assumptions helps us see through the parasite's illusions, and doing our best empowers us to overcome the parasite's grip on our lives.
Wow, I'm starting to see how this all connects. The four agreements aren't just about personal growth. They're about liberation. They're about breaking free from the chains of negativity and stepping into our full potential.
That's a beautiful way to put it. It's about reclaiming our power, choosing love over fear, and creating a life that's aligned with our truest selves.
Okay, I'm ready to embark on this journey to freedom. But
Okay.
before we go any further, I'm curious to hear more about these solutions that Ruiz offers for fighting back against the parasite. You mentioned facing our fears, starving the parasite, and the initiation of the dead. Can you break those down for us?
Of course. Facing our fears, it's about confronting the things that trigger our anxieties and insecurities instead of avoiding them. It's about recognizing that fear is often an illusion, a product of our imagination, and we have the power to overcome it.
So instead of letting fear control us, we actually take control of fear. We face it head on, we challenge it, and ultimately we dismantle it.
Exactly, like shining a light on the monster in the closet, realizing that it's just a pile of clothes.
I love that analogy. It reminds me that fear often loses its power when we expose it to the light of awareness. What about starving the parasite? How do we actually stop feeding it with negative emotions? I mean, it's not like we can just switch them off, right?
It takes practice and awareness, but it's about becoming a more conscious observer of our emotions. You know, when you feel anger, jealousy, self-pity arising, don't judge yourself for having those feelings. Just observe them without getting swept away.
So it's like watching clouds pass by. We acknowledge them without getting caught up in the storm.
Exactly. The more you practice this detachment, the less power those negative emotions will have over you.
Okay, that makes sense. It's about creating space
Yeah.
between our emotions and our reactions, about choosing how we respond rather than reacting impulsively. What about the initiation of the dead? That one sounds pretty intense.
It is. It's this symbolic death to our old selves, our old agreements, and our old fears, allowing us to awaken to a new way of being.
So it's a metaphorical death,
Yeah.
not a literal one.
Exactly. It's about shedding the layers of conditioning, the limiting beliefs and the negative self-talk that keep us stuck in the dream of the planet.
So it's about letting go of who we thought we were, to embrace who we truly are, like a caterpillar transforming into a butterfly, letting go of the old limited self to emerge as something more beautiful and free.
That's a beautiful analogy, embracing the unknown, trusting that something even greater awaits us on the other side of that transformation.
Wow, that's profound. It makes me think of the phoenix rising from the ashes. It's about death and rebirth, embracing the cycle of transformation and emerging as a stronger, wiser, and more authentic version of ourselves.
And that leads us to the final section of the book, The New Dream, Heaven on Earth. It's a vision of a life filled with love, joy, and freedom. And it's all achieved through changing our agreements and perceptions.
Well, it's not about reaching some external destination. It's about creating heaven on earth within ourselves, through our thoughts, beliefs, and actions.
Precisely. Imagine living without needing to justify yourself, without fear of judgment, fully expressing your authentic self. What would that feel like for you?
I think it would feel like freedom, like finally being able to breathe, like coming home to myself after a long journey.
It's a journey we're all on, and the 4 agreements are our guide. They're the tools that help us navigate the challenges, overcome the obstacles, and ultimately create a life that's aligned with our deepest truths.
Okay, so we're fighting against the parasite of negativity and limiting beliefs. We're facing our fears, we're choosing love over fear, and we're creating a new dream, a heaven on earth within ourselves. This is powerful stuff. But I'm curious, how do we actually bridge the gap between the dream of the planet and this new dream? How do we actually make this shift from negativity to freedom, from fear to love?
Well, it all starts with awareness. It's about recognizing that we're not actually in control. Those ingrained beliefs and negative thought patterns, they're calling the shots.
So step 1 is acknowledging that we're not actually in control, that these ingrained beliefs and thought patterns are running the show.
Exactly. Once you see the parasite, you can start to dismantle it. And the 4 agreements are the most powerful weapons we have in this battle.
Okay, I'm ready to wage war on this parasite. But let's get specific. How does facing our fears actually work? Do we just like walk straight into the...
It's about gradually exposing ourselves to the things that trigger our fear, but in a safe and controlled way. Let's say, you're terrified of public speaking. Instead of avoiding it completely, you might start by sharing your ideas in a small group, and then gradually work your way up to larger audiences.
So it's about baby steps, building our confidence as we go. Each time we confront a fear and survive, we realize it wasn't as terrifying as we imagined, and the fear loses its grip on us.
Precisely. And as we face our fears, we also starve the parasite. Remember, the parasite thrives on fear and negativity.
Okay, so facing our fears and starving the parasite, they're kind of interconnected. But what about starving the parasite on a day-to-day basis? How do we stop feeding it with those negative emotions? Like it's not like we can just switch them off.
It takes practice, but it's about becoming more conscious of our emotional reactions. When you feel that anger, that jealousy, self-pity arising, don't engage with those feelings. Don't judge yourself for having them. Just observe them without getting swept away.
So it's about becoming a more mindful observer of our emotions. We create space between our feelings and our reactions.
Exactly. The more you practice this detachment, the less power those negative emotions will have over you.
Okay, that makes sense. It's about breaking that chain reaction between feeling and reacting. About choosing how we respond, rather than letting our emotions just dictate our behavior. But the initiation of the dead still sounds kind of mysterious to me. Is this something that we actively choose, or does it just kind of happen?
It can happen spontaneously, through a profound life experience or a spiritual awakening. But it can also be a conscious choice, a deliberate decision to shed the old self and embrace a new way of being.
So it's about letting go of everything that we've clung to, like our beliefs, our identities, even our fears.
It's about surrendering to the unknown, trusting that something even greater awaits us on the other side. Ruiz describes it as a symbolic death, a letting go of the ego's grip on our lives.
Wow, that's deep. Makes me think of those times in life when we go through a major transition, like a breakup. Or a career change, a loss of some kind. It can feel like a death, but it's also an opportunity for rebirth, for creating something new and beautiful out of the ashes of the old.
Exactly. It's about embracing the cycle of transformation, trusting that even though it can be painful, it ultimately leads to growth and liberation.
Okay, I'm starting to see the appeal, but what about those of us who aren't ready for such a drastic transformation? Are there ways to kind of experience glimpses of this heaven on earth without going through a full-on symbolic death?
Absolutely. Every time you make a conscious choice, one that's aligned with the 4 agreements, you're taking a step toward that heaven on earth. Every time you choose love over fear, kindness over judgment, you're creating a more peaceful and joyful reality for yourself.
So it's about those small daily choices. They gradually shift our perception, and they create a ripple effect in our lives.
Yeah, exactly. It's not about becoming a saint overnight. It's about those tiny acts of awareness, those moments of choosing love that ultimately transform our dream.
I love that. It makes this whole journey feel a lot more attainable, more human. Now, Ruiz also talks about this idea of the dream of the second attention. What exactly does that mean?
Well, it's about using our awareness to consciously create a new dream, one that's not based on the limiting beliefs of the dream of the planet. It's about choosing beliefs that empower us, that align with our values and aspirations.
So instead of being programmed by society's expectations, we're taking back the reins and we're designing our own reality.
Precisely. We have the power to choose our beliefs, to choose our thoughts, and to choose our reactions. We're not just passive recipients of whatever life throws our way. We're active creators of our own experience.
That's incredibly empowering. It makes me think of that quote. The universe doesn't give you what you ask for with your thoughts. It gives you what you demand with your actions. So it's not enough to just wish for a better life. We have to take action and make it happen.
Intent without action is just a wish. It's when we combine our intentions with consistent effort that we see real transformation.
Okay, so we're setting our intentions, we're taking action, and we're trusting the process. But what about those times when things don't go according to plan? When we face setbacks or challenges?
Reframe those challenges as opportunities for growth. Instead of seeing them as failures, view them as lessons. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I use this experience to become stronger, wiser, and more resilient?
So it's about shifting from a victim mentality to a warrior mentality. We embrace those challenges as part of the journey.
Precisely. It's about cultivating that inner strength and resilience.
Yeah.
That allows us to bounce back from setbacks and keep moving forward.
Okay, I like that. It's about seeing ourselves as the heroes of our own stories, not the victims of circumstance. Recognizing that challenges are inevitable, but they don't have to define us. We can choose to learn from them, grow from them, and become even stronger because of them.
And remember, the 4 agreements are there to guide us through those challenging times. When you're feeling overwhelmed by negativity or doubt, just remind yourself, be impeccable with your word, don't take anything personally, don't make assumptions, and always do your best.
So the agreements are like our anchor.
Yeah.
Keeping us grounded in love and wisdom, even when the storms are raging all around us.
Exactly. They're our compass, our anchor, and our guiding light. They help us remember who we truly are, and they empower us to create a life that's aligned with our deepest truths.
I love that analogy. It makes me feel like I have a map and a set of tools to navigate even the most challenging terrain. But what about this heaven on earth that Ruiz talks about? What does that look like, and how do we get there?
It's a state of being rather than a physical place. It's about experiencing joy, love, and freedom in every moment, regardless of our external circumstances.
So it's not about having a perfect life. It's about having a perfect perspective. It's about shifting our perception, seeing the world through a lens of love and gratitude.
Exactly. Recognizing the beauty and abundance that's all around us, even in the midst of challenges. Appreciating the simple things. Savoring each moment. And cultivating a deep sense of connection with ourselves, with others, and with the world around us.
Okay, I love that. It's about finding the extraordinary in the ordinary, the magic in the mundane. But how do we actually cultivate that kind of perspective? It's easy to talk about it, but how do we actually make it a reality in our everyday lives?
It starts with practice. Start by incorporating mindfulness into your daily routine. Take a few moments each day to simply be present. Notice your breath, feel your body, engage your senses.
So it's about those mindful moments, those pauses throughout the day where we just reconnect with ourselves, with the present moment.
Exactly. And as you become more present, start to notice the beauty that's all around you, the warmth of the sun on your skin, the sound of birds singing, the laughter of a loved one.
It's about training our minds to focus on the positive, right?
Yeah.
To appreciate the abundance that's already present in our lives, rather than getting caught up in what we think is lacking.
Precisely. And as we shift our focus, our experience begins to change. We start to see the world through a lens of love and gratitude. We feel more connected to ourselves, to others, and to something greater than ourselves.
Okay, I'm feeling inspired. But what about those times when we're struggling, when we're feeling overwhelmed by negativity or doubt? How do we stay connected to that sense of peace and joy when life is throwing us those curveballs?
Remember, the 4 agreements are our tools for navigating those challenging times. When you're feeling lost or discouraged, just return to the agreements. Remind yourself, be impeccable with your word. Don't take anything personally. Don't make assumptions. And always do your best.
So the agreements are like our lifeline, helping us stay afloat even when those waves are crashing down on us.
Exactly. They're our compass, our anchor, and our guiding light. They remind us that we're not alone, and that we have the power to choose love over fear.
Okay, I'm starting to see the 4 agreements, not just as the set of principles, but as a way of life. It's about consciously choosing to live in alignment with our deepest truths, to create a reality that reflects our highest values.
Beautifully said. And it's a journey that's available to all of us. It's not about being perfect, it's about progress. Showing up every day, doing our best, and trusting the process.
Well, this has been an incredible journey, exploring the 4 agreements. It's so inspiring to see how these simple yet profound agreements can have such a transformative impact on our lives.
And it's just the beginning. The real magic happens when we take these principles and start applying them in our own unique ways.
So to our listeners, we encourage you to take what resonates with you from this deep dive and start experimenting. See how the 4 agreements can shift your perspective, enhance your relationships, and help you create a more joyful and fulfilling life.
Remember, you have the power to choose your dream. What will you create?
That's a great question to ponder. Until next time, keep exploring, keep growing, and keep choosing love.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the 4 agreements.
Last time, we explored the powerful concepts of domestication, the dream of the planet, and how the 4 agreements can help us break free from those limiting beliefs. This time, let's get even more practical. How can these agreements actually help us navigate those ups and downs of life, especially in our relationships?
That's a great question. Let's start by looking at how the agreements can transform the way we communicate. Think back to the first agreement. Be impeccable with your word. Imagine how different our interactions would be if we all strive to speak truthfully, kindly, and intentionally.
Yeah, I could see how that would make a huge difference, especially, in those heated moments when it's so easy to just let our emotions kind of get the best of us instead of reacting defensively or saying things that we later regret. You just pause, take a breath, and choose words that foster understanding and connection.
Exactly. And it's not just about what we say, but also how we say it, right? Our tone of voice, our body language, even our facial expressions, they all communicate volumes. When we approach conversations with awareness and intention, we create a space for more authentic and meaningful connections.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about the agreement to not take anything personally? How does that play out in our relationships? I mean, isn't it natural to feel hurt or offended when someone says or does something that we perceive as hurtful?
Absolutely. It's natural to have feelings, but the key is to not let those feelings dictate our reactions. Remember, other people's actions and words, they're a reflection of their own internal world, right? Their own beliefs, their own experiences, their own emotional state. It's not about us.
So instead of getting defensive or taking things personally, we could try to understand where they're coming from and respond with empathy.
Exactly. Recognizing that we're all on our own journeys and we're all doing the best we can with the awareness that we have. When we approach conflict with this kind of understanding, it becomes a lot easier to let go of that need to be right or to make the other person wrong.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about those times when someone repeatedly disrespects our boundaries or treats us poorly? Are we still not supposed to take it personally?
That's where the concept of healthy boundaries comes in. The 4 agreements don't mean we should tolerate abuse or mistreatment. It's about recognizing that even those negative behaviors, they're coming from a place of pain or unconsciousness in the other person.
So we can still set boundaries and protect ourselves, while recognizing that the other person's behavior is not a reflection of our worth.
Exactly. And sometimes setting boundaries means walking away from relationships that are no longer serving us. It's about prioritizing our own well-being and choosing to surround ourselves with people who treat us with respect and kindness.
Okay, so we've talked about impeccability with our words and not taking things personally. What about the agreement to not make assumptions? How does that help us in our relationships?
Well, assumptions are often the root of misunderstandings and conflicts, right? So instead of jumping to conclusions or assuming we know what our partner is thinking or feeling, the agreement encourages us to ask questions and seek clarification.
Yeah, it's like that old saying, assume makes an ass out of you and me.
Yeah.
It's so easy to just fill in the blanks with our own interpretations. But that often leads to more problems than it solves. It's much healthier to just be direct and ask for clarification.
Exactly. When we communicate openly and honestly, we create a foundation of trust and understanding, and we avoid a lot of unnecessary drama and hurt feelings.
Okay, that makes sense. What about the 4th agreement? Always do your best. How does that apply to relationships?
It's about, showing up authentically, being present and engaged, putting effort into nurturing the relationship.
So it's not about being like the perfect partner or always knowing the right thing to say or do. It's more about just showing up with our whole hearts and doing what we can to make the relationship thrive.
Exactly. And recognizing that our best, it will fluctuate from day to day depending on our energy levels, our emotional state, the circumstances that we're facing. It's about being kind to ourselves and our partners and not setting unrealistic expectations.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. But what about those times when, we're putting in the effort, we're communicating openly, we're trying to be present and supportive, but we still feel kind of disconnected from our partner? It feels like sometimes, no matter how hard we try, we just can't seem to bridge that gap.
That's a common challenge, especially in long-term relationships. We can get so caught up in the routines of daily life, the stresses of work, family, that we forget to nurture the connection with our partner.
So it's about making a conscious effort to reconnect, carving out time for meaningful conversations, expressing appreciation and gratitude, simply enjoying each other's company.
Exactly. And sometimes it can be helpful to remind ourselves, why did we fall in love with this person in the first place? What qualities do we admire in them? What makes them special and unique? Focusing on the positive can really help rekindle that spark of connection.
Okay, yeah. It's about making that conscious choice to focus on the good, right? To appreciate the qualities that drew us to our partner in the first place. But what about those times when we feel like we've kind of grown apart, when our values or goals no longer align, or we're simply just not feeling fulfilled in the relationship?
Those are tough situations, and there's no easy answer. Sometimes, despite our best efforts, relationships reach a point where it's actually healthier to let go. But even in those situations, the 4 agreements can help us navigate that process with grace and compassion.
So it's about honoring our own needs and the needs of our partner. Even if that means, parting ways. Recognizing that sometimes the most loving thing we can do is to let go.
Exactly. And remembering that, even though relationships may end, the love that we shared and the lessons that we learn along the way will always be a part of us.
Okay, that's a beautiful perspective. It's a reminder that even endings can be opportunities for growth and transformation. Now, shifting gears a bit, I'm curious to hear more about this concept of the dream of the second attention.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that it's about consciously choosing our beliefs and creating a new dream for ourselves. How does that actually work?
Well, it's about recognizing that we have the power to choose our thoughts and beliefs. Becoming aware of the stories we tell ourselves, the narratives that we've created about who we are and what's possible for us.
So it's about challenging those limiting beliefs, those negative self-talk patterns that keep us stuck in the dream of the planet. That collective nightmare of fear, judgment, and negativity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Recognizing that, we're not defined by those limiting beliefs, that we have the power to choose a different story, a more empowering and fulfilling narrative for our lives.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this connects to the idea of being impeccable with our words. The words that we use to talk to ourselves, the stories that we tell ourselves, they have a profound impact on our reality.
Precisely. Our thoughts create our beliefs shape our actions, and our actions create our reality. So if we want to change our reality, we need to start by changing our thoughts.
Okay, so if we want to create this dream of the second attention, a more positive and empowering dream for ourselves, we need to start by examining our beliefs and choosing ones that actually support our growth and well-being.
Exactly. We have the power to choose those beliefs, to choose a different path, to create a new story for ourselves.
That's incredibly empowering. It reminds me of that quote by Henry Ford, whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. Our beliefs create our reality, so if we believe we can achieve something, we're much more likely to make it happen.
That's a great point. Our beliefs act as filters, They shape how we perceive the world and the opportunities that are available to us. If we believe we're limited, we'll see limitations everywhere. But if we believe we're capable and worthy, we'll see possibilities everywhere.
Okay, that's making a lot of sense. But how do we actually go about choosing new beliefs? Like it's not like we can just snap our fingers and suddenly believe something different.
It takes time, effort, and consistency. But it starts with awareness. Pay attention to your thoughts. Notice the stories that you're telling yourself. Challenge the beliefs that are holding you back. And start replacing them with more positive and empowering affirmations.
So it's like we're retraining our minds, rewiring our brains to think differently. So instead of focusing on what we can't do, we focus on what we can do. Instead of dwelling on our weaknesses, we celebrate our strengths.
Exactly. And as we shift our thoughts and beliefs, we start to see a shift in our external reality as well. Opportunities that were previously hidden, they suddenly become visible. Challenges that once seemed insurmountable now feel manageable. Relationships that were once strained begin to heal.
Okay, I'm starting to see the magic of this dream of the second attention. It's about recognizing that we're not just victims of circumstance. We're active creators of our own reality. We have the power to choose our beliefs, to shape our thoughts, and to create a life that's aligned with our deepest truths.
Beautifully said. And it's a journey that's available to all of us. The 4 agreements offer this powerful framework for dismantling the dream of the planet and stepping into a new dream, a dream of love, freedom, and joy.
Okay, so we're becoming aware of our limiting beliefs. We're challenging the parasite of negativity, and we're consciously choosing more empowering beliefs. But what about those times when we slip up, when we break one of the agreements?
It's inevitable. We're human. We're not perfect. The key is to not beat ourselves up. Just acknowledge the slip up, recommit to the agreements, and move on.
So it's about progress, not perfection. It's about recognizing that, we're on a journey and there will be bumps along the way.
Exactly. It's like learning to ride a bike. You're going to fall off a few times, but each time you get back on, you get a little bit better, a little bit stronger.
Okay, I appreciate that reminder. It's easy to get caught up in the idea of doing it all perfectly and then feel discouraged when we inevitably stumble.
That's the parasite talking. Remember, it thrives on self-judgment and negativity. Don't give it the satisfaction.
Good point. I'm sensing a theme here. Self-compassion is key.
Yeah.
It's about treating ourselves with the same kindness and understanding that we would offer a dear friend.
Absolutely. Self-compassion is the foundation for everything. When we can accept ourselves, flaws and all, it becomes easier to accept others, to forgive ourselves and others, and to move forward with grace and resilience.
Okay, so we're practicing self-compassion. We're choosing empowering beliefs. And we're committing to doing our best, even when we stumble. But what about the role of intent in all of this? Ruiz talks about it as a powerful force for transformation. How do we actually harness the power of intent?
It starts with aligning our actions with our heart's deepest desires. What do you truly want to create in your life? What kind of person do you want to be?
Ooh, those are big questions. I think I need a minute to ponder that.
Take your time. It's not about having all the answers right away. It's about being open to the possibilities, open to the whispers of your soul.
So it's about listening to that inner voice, that intuition that guides us toward our truest path.
Exactly. Once you have a sense of what you want to create, set your intention and take action. Don't worry about having a perfect plan or knowing every step along the way. Just start moving in the direction of your dreams.
So it's about taking those baby steps, trusting that the path will unfold as we go.
Precisely. Having faith in ourselves and in the universe. Knowing that we're supported every step of the way.
Okay, I love that. It takes the pressure off needing to have it all figured out. It's about showing up, doing our best, and trusting the process.
And as you continue on this journey, you'll find that the more you align your actions with your intentions, the more effortlessly things seem to flow.
So it's like we're tapping into a higher power, a universal energy that supports us in manifesting our desires.
That's one way to see it. Ruiz calls it the mastery of intent. It's about becoming a conscious creator, shaping our reality through our thoughts, our beliefs, and our actions.
That's so powerful. It makes me think about those times in my life when things just seem to fall into place.
Yeah.
Like the universe is conspiring to help me achieve my goals. Maybe it's not about luck or coincidence. Maybe it's about aligning our intentions with the flow of the universe.
It's a beautiful concept, isn't it? And the more we practice aligning our actions with our intentions, the more we'll experience that sense of flow, that feeling of being in the right place at the right time.
Okay, so we're setting our intentions, we're taking action, and we're trusting the process. But what about those times when things don't go according to plan? When we face setbacks or challenges, it's easy to get discouraged and feel like we're failing.
Reframe those challenges as opportunities for growth. Instead of seeing them as failures, view them as lessons. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I use this experience to become stronger, wiser, and more resilient?
So it's about like shifting from a victim mentality to a warrior mentality. We embrace the challenges as part of the journey.
Precisely. Cultivating that inner strength and resilience, that allows us to bounce back from setbacks and keep moving forward.
Okay, I like that. It's about seeing ourselves as the heroes of our own stories, not the victims of circumstance. Recognizing that challenges are inevitable, but they don't have to define us. We can choose to learn from them, grow from them, and become even stronger because of them.
And remember, the 4 agreements are there to guide us through those challenging times. When you're feeling overwhelmed by negativity or doubt, just remind yourself, be impeccable with your word, don't take anything personally, don't make assumptions, and always do your best.
So the agreements are like our anchor, keeping us grounded in love and wisdom, even when the storms are raging all around us.
Exactly. They're our compass, our anchor, and our guiding light. They help us remember who we truly are, and they empower us to create a life that's aligned with our deepest truths.
Okay, I love that analogy. It makes me feel like I have a map and a set of tools to navigate even the most challenging terrain. But what about this heaven on earth that Ruiz talks about? What does that look like?
Yeah.
And how do we get there?
It's a state of being rather than a physical place. It's about experiencing joy, love, and freedom in every moment, regardless of our external circumstances.
So it's not about having a perfect life. It's about having a perfect perspective. It's about shifting our perception, seeing the world through a lens of love and gratitude.
Exactly. Recognizing the beauty and abundance that's all around us, even in the midst of challenges. Appreciating the simple things, savoring each moment, and cultivating a deep sense of connection with ourselves, with others, and with the world around us.
Okay, I love that. It's about finding the extraordinary in the ordinary, the magic in the mundane. But how do we actually cultivate that kind of perspective? It's easy to talk about it conceptually, but how do we actually make it a reality in our everyday lives?
It starts with practice. Start by incorporating mindfulness into your daily routine. Take a few moments each day to simply be present. Notice your breath, feel your body, engage your senses.
So it's about those mindful moments, those pauses throughout the day where we just reconnect with ourselves and with the present moment.
Exactly. And as you become more present, start to notice the beauty that's all around you, the warmth of the sun on your skin, the sound of birds singing, the laughter of a loved one.
It's about training our minds to focus on the positive, right? To appreciate the abundance that's already present in our lives, rather than getting caught up in what we think is lacking.
Precisely. And as we shift our focus, our experience begins to change. We start to see the world through a lens of love and gratitude. We feel more connected to ourselves, to others, and to something greater than ourselves.
Okay, I'm feeling inspired. But what about those times when we're struggling, when we're feeling overwhelmed by negativity or doubt? How do we stay connected to that sense of peace and joy when life is throwing us those curveballs?
Remember, the 4 agreements are our tools for navigating those challenging times. When you're feeling lost or discouraged, just return to the agreements. Remind yourself. Be impeccable with your word. Don't take anything personally. Don't make assumptions, and always do your best.
So the agreements are like our lifeline, helping us stay afloat even when those waves are crashing down on us.
Exactly. They're our compass, our anchor, and our guiding light. They remind us that we're not alone and that we have the power to choose love over fear.
Okay, I'm starting to see the 4 agreements, not just as a set of principles, but as a way of life. It's about consciously choosing to live in alignment with our deepest truths, to create a reality that reflects our highest values.
Beautifully said. And it's a journey that's available to all of us. It's not about being perfect, it's about progress. Showing up every day, doing our best, and trusting the process.
Okay, so we've explored the 4 agreements in the context of our relationships, our thoughts and beliefs, and our emotional well-being. But what about the role of purpose in all of this? Ruiz talks about finding our true calling, living a life that's aligned with our soul's purpose. How do we discover our purpose? And how do we live a life that feels meaningful and fulfilling?
It starts with listening to your heart. What are you passionate about? What makes you feel alive? What are your unique gifts and talents?
Ooh, those are big questions. I think I need a moment to ponder that.
Take your time. It's not about having all the answers right away. It's about being open to the possibilities, to the whispers of your soul.
So it's about paying attention to those things that light us up, that make us feel excited and energized.
Exactly. Your passions are your compass, guiding you toward your true north.
Okay, but what about those times when we feel, lost or confused, when we don't have that clear sense of what our passions are?
Explore. Try new things. Step outside of your comfort zone. Experiment with different activities and see what resonates with you.
So it's about being curious, playful, open to new experiences, like treating life as a grand adventure.
Exactly. Your purpose isn't something you find, it's something you unfold. It's a journey of self-discovery, not a destination.
Okay, I love that. It takes the pressure off needing to have it all figured out. But what about those times when we feel like, we're not making progress? When we're putting in the effort, but we're not seeing the results that we hope for?
Trust the process. Sometimes the path to our purpose, it's winding and unpredictable. There may be detours, roadblocks, unexpected challenges along the way.
So it's about staying the course, even when it gets tough. Remembering that setbacks are a natural part of the journey.
Precisely. Having faith in ourselves and in the universe, knowing that we're guided and supported every step of the way.
Okay, that makes me feel more hopeful. But what are those times when we feel like we're not good enough? When we compare ourselves to others and we come up short? How do we overcome those feelings of inadequacy and embrace our own unique path?
It's about recognizing that, comparison is the thief of joy. Everyone's journey is unique. There's no right or wrong way to live your purpose.
So it's about celebrating our own individuality, our own strengths and talents, rather than trying to fit into somebody else's mold.
Exactly. Your purpose isn't about being better than anyone else. It's about being the best version of yourself.
I love that. It's a reminder to focus on our own lane, to run our own race, and to celebrate the unique contribution that we each bring to the world. But what about the role of service in all of this? Ruiz talks about living a life of purpose as a life of service. How do we serve others while still honoring our own needs and desires?
Find the intersection between your passions and the needs of the world. How can you use your unique gifts and talents to make a positive impact?
So it's about finding that sweet spot where our passions align with a greater purpose, where we can make a contribution that feels both meaningful and fulfilling.
Precisely. Service isn't about sacrificing ourselves, it's about sharing our gifts with the world.
Okay, I'm starting to see how all of these pieces fit together. But what about the role of happiness in all of this? Is happiness the goal? Or is it a byproduct of living a purposeful life?
Well, happiness is both a goal and a byproduct. When we live in alignment with our purpose, happiness naturally flows. But we can also cultivate happiness through conscious choices, right? Like practicing gratitude, savoring the present moment, and nurturing our relationships.
So it's a two-way street. Happiness supports our purpose, and our purpose amplifies our happiness.
Exactly. They're intertwined, feeding and supporting each other.
Okay, I'm feeling inspired. But what about those times when we feel stuck? When we know what we want, but we don't know how to get there.
Take action. Even small steps in the right direction can create momentum. Break down your goals into manageable chunks and start taking action one step at a time.
So it's about moving from dreaming to doing, from intention to action.
Precisely. Action is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be.
Okay, I'm ready to start building that bridge. But what about those times when we feel afraid? When fear holds us back from taking those steps.
Well, it's a natural part of the journey. It's okay to feel afraid. The key is to not let fear paralyze you. Acknowledge the fear, but don't let it dictate your choices.
So it's about feeling the fear and doing it anyway.
Exactly. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's taking action in spite of fear.
Okay, I'm feeling brave. But what about those times when we make mistakes? When we stumble or we fall short of our goals?
Well, mistakes are inevitable. They're part of the learning process. Don't beat yourself up for making mistakes. See them as opportunities for growth and learning.
So it's about reframing mistakes as feedback, as valuable information that can help us course correct and move forward.
Exactly. Every mistake is a lesson in disguise.
Okay, I can see how that perspective can take the sting out of making mistakes. But what about those times when we feel like giving up, when the journey feels too long, the challenges feel too great, and the goal feels too far out of reach?
Remember why you started. Reconnect with your purpose. Remind yourself of the impacts that you want to make.
So it's about finding our fuel, that inner fire that keeps us going, even when it's tough.
Exactly. Your purpose is your fuel. It's the source of your strength, your resilience, your determination.
Okay, I'm feeling fired up. But what about the role of community in all of this? Ruiz talks about the importance of surrounding ourselves with supportive people who encourage us on our journey. How do we find our tribe? Those people who believe in us and support our dreams.
Be authentically yourself. The more you align with your true self, the more you'll attract people into your life who resonate with your energy and who support your journey.
So it's about putting ourselves out there, being open and vulnerable, and letting the right people find us.
Exactly. Your tribe is out there, waiting for you to show up as your true self.
Okay, I'm ready to find my people. But what about those times when we feel alone, when we're surrounded by people, but we still feel a sense of isolation or disconnection?
It's about connecting with your inner self. Remember, you are never truly alone. You always have yourself. Cultivate a strong relationship with yourself, and you'll never feel truly isolated.
So it's about finding that inner sanctuary, that place of peace and connection within ourselves.
Exactly. Your inner self is your constant companion, your source of strength and guidance.
I love that. It's a reminder that we always have a safe haven within ourselves, no matter what's happening in the external world.
And that brings us back to the heart of the 4 agreements. It's about creating that inner sanctuary, that foundation of self-love, compassion, and inner peace that allows us to navigate the ups and downs of life with grace and resilience.
It's about remembering that we have the power to choose our thoughts, to shape our reality, and to create a life that's aligned with our deepest truths.
Exactly. And it's a journey that's available to all of us. We all have the capacity for transformation, for growth, and for creating a heaven on earth, both within ourselves and in the world around us.
All right, I'm feeling incredibly inspired. But before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on the role of death in all of this.
Yeah.
Ruiz talks about death as a teacher, a guide on the path to freedom. What can we learn from death? Welcome back to the deep dive we've been on into the 4 agreements.
Yeah, we've covered so much ground already, from, domestication and the dream of the planet to how these agreements can really transform the way we relate to other people and, even help us find our purpose.
Yeah, it's been mind-blowing to see how these agreements, they're so simple, but so profound. They can really create such a ripple effect in our lives. But now let's get down to the nitty-gritty. How do we actually integrate these agreements into our everyday lives?
Yeah.
I mean, it's one thing to understand the concepts. It's another thing to actually put them into practice consistently, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like learning any new skill. It takes practice, patience, and a willingness to kind of stumble along the way.
Yeah, for sure. So where do we even begin? What are some practical tips for actually incorporating these agreements into our daily routines and interactions?
One helpful practice is to start each day by reminding yourself of the agreements. You could write them down on a sticky note, set a reminder on your phone, or even create like a little ritual where you say them out loud.
Okay, yeah. So it's about bringing those agreements into our conscious awareness, making them a part of our mental landscape, rather than just something that we read in a book and then forget about.
Exactly. And throughout the day, as you encounter different situations, just ask yourself, how can I apply the agreements here? So for example, if you're about to engage in gossip, remind yourself of the agreement to be impeccable with your word. Or if you're feeling hurt or offended by someone's actions, remind yourself to not take it personally.
So it's like we have those agreements in our back pocket,
Yeah.
ready to pull out whenever we need them. But what about those times when we forget, when we get caught up in the heat of the moment,
Yeah.
and we react in ways that don't align with the agreements?
It's a journey, not a destination. There will be times when we slip up, when we fall back into those old patterns. But the key is to be gentle with ourselves, acknowledge the mistake, and just recommit to the agreements.
So it's not about beating ourselves up for our imperfections. It's more about, approaching the process with self-compassion and a willingness to learn and grow.
Exactly. The more we practice, the more natural it becomes. The agreements start to become integrated into our being, and they shape how we think, how we speak, and how we act.
So it's about consistency. It's about making those small daily choices to align with the agreements. It's not about, overnight transformation, but it's more about, gradual, steady progress.
Precisely. And as we continue on this path, we start to experience those profound shifts that Ruiz talks about. Our relationships become more harmonious. We feel more at peace with ourselves, and we start to experience glimpses of that heaven on earth that he describes.
Speaking of heaven on earth, let's delve a little deeper into that concept. What does it actually look like to create this kind of reality in our lives?
It's about experiencing joy, love, and freedom in every moment, regardless of our external circumstances, cultivating this deep sense of inner peace and contentment that's not dependent on, external validation or material possessions.
So it's not about achieving some kind of perfect life. It's about cultivating like a perfect perspective, shifting our perception, seeing the world through a lens of love and gratitude.
Exactly. Recognizing the beauty and abundance that's all around us, even in the midst of challenges, appreciating the simple things, savoring each moment, and cultivating that deep sense of connection with ourselves, with others, and with the world around us.
Okay, I love that. It's about finding the extraordinary in the ordinary, the magic in the mundane. But how do we actually cultivate that kind of perspective? It's easy to talk about it conceptually, but how do we actually make it a reality in our everyday lives?
It starts with practice. Start by incorporating mindfulness into your daily routine. Take a few moments each day to simply be present. Notice your breath, feel your body, engage your senses.
So it's about those mindful moments, right? Those pauses throughout the day where we just reconnect with ourselves and with the present moment.
Exactly. And as you become more present, start to notice the beauty that's all around you, the warmth of the sun on your skin, the sound of birds singing, the laughter of a loved one.
It's about like training our minds to focus on the positive, to appreciate the abundance that's already present in our lives, rather than, getting caught up in what's lacking.
Precisely. And as we shift our focus, our experience begins to change. We start to see the world through a lens of love and gratitude. We feel more connected to ourselves, to others, and to something greater than ourselves.
Okay, I'm feeling inspired.
Yeah.
But what about those times when, we're struggling, when we're feeling overwhelmed by negativity or doubt? How do we stay connected to that sense of peace and joy when life is throwing us those curveballs?
Well, remember the 4 agreements. There are tools for navigating those challenging times. When you're feeling lost or discouraged, just return to the agreements. Remind yourself to be impeccable with your word. Don't take anything personally. Don't make assumptions, and always do your best.
So the agreements are like our anchor. keeping us grounded in wisdom and love, even when the storms are raging all around us.
Exactly. They're our compass,
Yeah.
our anchor, and our guiding light. They remind us that we're not alone and that we have the power to choose love over fear.
Okay, I'm starting to see the four agreements, not just as a set of principles, but as a way of life. It's about consciously choosing to live in alignment with our deepest truths, to create a reality that reflects our highest values.
Beautifully said. And it's a journey that's available to all of us. It's not about being perfect, it's about progress. It's about showing up every day, doing our best, and trusting the process.
So this has been an incredible journey, exploring the four agreements. It's been so inspiring to see how these simple yet profound agreements can have such a transformative impact on our lives.
And it's just the beginning. The real magic happens when we take these principles and start applying them in our own unique ways.
Yeah, absolutely. So to our listeners, we encourage you to take what resonates with you from this deep dive and start experimenting. See how the four agreements can shift your perspective, enhance your relationships, and help you create a more joyful and fulfilling life.
Remember, you have the power to choose your dream. What will you create?
That's a great question to ponder. Until next time, keep exploring, keep growing, and keep choosing love.